Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, whether you're tuning in on the radio dial here in Mississippi. We welcome you all back to our program, as well as joining us through our online affiliates and our iHeart family. We're glad to have all of you with us as well. We're excited to welcome back to our program today Isaiah Washington. Now, he's become a regular guest on our program. The last time we talked, though, ironically, was with his film Blackbird. He's here to talk to us not only about his continued acting journey that he's been on, but also what it's been like for him to share powerful messages in his work as well. One of those ways he's able to do that is in his new project that he's gearing up for the release for on TV One, the film called Behind the Movement. We'll talk to Isaiah not only about what it was like for him to bring to life E.D.Nixon for this film, but also how he continues to be able to allow his activism to come out in his work, as well as through the way that he uses social media. And just not hearing about Behind the Movement, we'll remind you at the end of our segment how you can be able to see it for yourself. But Isaiah, hello to you and welcome back to the program.
Hey, thank you.
You know, Isaiah, let's start off with this film, because as we're having this conversation today, for those who are joining us on the radio side, you're gearing up for the big premiere actually today. What has it been like for you already to be able to see the response to Behind the Movement?
It's been extremely exciting. I think first and foremost is that people realize that although we think we know a lot about the beginning of the civil rights movement, there still has been a form of miseducation. And what I mean by that is a thing that really got me the most interested in Katrina Ogilvy's script was the fact that I had absolutely no knowledge of who Edgar Daniel Nixon was. I thought, like most people around the world, over 60 and down, and many people who've died, had no knowledge that Edgar Daniel Nixon essentially was truly the father of the civil rights movement. And what I mean by that, he had already been trying to desegregate the society in the cradle of the Confederacy since the 20s and the 30s. He was born in 1899 in Montgomery, Alabama, and died February 25th, 1987 at the age of 87. I was blown away that he and A. Philip Randolph had already been looking for ways to desegregate probably one of the most racist cities and states in the United States of America. I was just absolutely blown away that I knew nothing about this man. I was only able to find one piece of interview, I think it was the Washington University of St. Louis, and where he explained how he and Joanne Robinson, who was the president of the Women's Political Council, was able to come together after the arrest of a longtime activist who also worked as the chief secretary for Edgar Daniel Nixon when he was the president of the NAACP in the Montgomery chapter. And that woman was named Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
And he and Rosa Parks and Joanne Robinson had been actively looking for the proper litigant to sue the state of Alabama to desegregate the buses. There are many people that came before Rosa Parks. Several months before Rosa Parks, there was a 15-year-old Claudette Colvin. There was Joanne Robinson herself, who got arrested on the bus intentionally in 1949, but they didn't move forward. No one was interested. The community wasn't interested at large at supporting the cause. And that was in 1949. There was Mary Louise Smith. There was Oriella Browder. And interestingly enough, it was the Browder versus Gale case that was filed specifically to represent the black writers who had been mistreated, including Rosa Parks, that ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court. It was not Rosa Parks' case. She was an addendum to the other previous litigants because they were hoping that when she was tried, Rosa Parks, which was part of Rosa Parks' genius and plan, is that along with her arrest. Now, here's the thing. Everyone thinks that she was tired and that she didn't want to, give up her seat because she was tired. No, she didn't want to give up her seat because she was tired of giving in. She was already aware of Mary Louise Smith. She was already aware of Aurelia Browder. She was already aware of Claudette Colvin. She was already aware of Miss Wainfield and the women that had been poorly, verbally and physically, poorly after paying their fare on the bus by paying in the front of the bus in the rain and the cold and having to get off the bus and get on the middle door and sit in the back. So she was just pretty much, before Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that was the spark that E.D.Nixon needed and A. Philip Randolph needed to create the Montgomery Improvement Association. Now, get this. She was arrested on a Thursday, December 1, 1955. E.D.Nixon found out she had been arrested and was appalled because she was such an upstanding woman. The problem with Mary Louise Smith, that Colvin and the other women, they had issues in their personal lives that E.D.Nixon felt they would be discredited and he wouldn't be able to galvanize all of the affluent individuals across the nation to pay for this boycott. So he knew he needed a litigant so he could win. Claudette Colvin was 15 years old. There was the saying is a little murky, is that she was pregnant and was, unwed mother. So we couldn't use her. Aurelia Browder has issues of domestic violence in the family. There's another woman that had issues of drinking. So they felt like the local press and the national press would turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to these women because they could be besmirched by the press. But no one could touch the level of integrity and professionalism and grace of Rosa Parks. So when she just got mad, it was the perfect time. She wasn't supposed to be the face of the boycott. It's just the stroke of the universe and God that said she had just had enough. But she had knew about all of these potential litigants and had the thing she had no idea that she herself would be made the face of the Montgomery bus boycott, and a reluctant pastor that had just arrived in Montgomery, Alabama, by 26 years old from Birmingham. E.D.Nixon on the weekend called him and told him that, I got about 5,000 people that's going to meet at your church on Sunday, and I need you to speak. And this reluctant pastor by the name of Martin Luther King said he didn't think he was the man to do it. And E.D.Nixon and A. Philip Randolph said, well, you don't have a choice, young man. I saw you speak in August of 1955, and you sure give good talks. And this is what America needs and the world needs, is to hear your voice. So you don't have a choice in the matter, because I got about 5,000 people coming to your church at such and such time.
Wow.
It was E.D.Nixon that made Martin Luther King, at the age of 26, fresh out of Birmingham and Montgomery, to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, made him the president of the Montgomery Improvement Association. He told a fellow pastor back, Ralph Abernathy, back in, not Abernathy, but when he heard him talking that August, that I'm going to hang this young man to the stars. He's going to be our leader. Because E.D.Nixon, he had been doing it since the 20s and the 30s, and he was already successful because he was a part of the Welfare League he created there. He created the first Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters union in Montgomery with the support and help of the great labor relations win through A. Philip Randolph. And A. Philip Randolph, and you will see in the movie, they're very close and have been civil rights activists long before Malcolm and Martin. Now, although the history has given us the great work of Malcolm and Martin, E.D.Nixon outlived them both. And history still would not give him his just due and his place in history. So my purpose is to expose as many of those and change that cognitive dissonance on what we've been told on who was really the fire behind what we now know the civil rights movement.
And Isaiah, that is the thing that fits you so well. I mean, you and I have had now several conversations on this program in different projects that you have been a part. You're kind of part of the family now. But you said something on Instagram. We're going to talk about social media again. But you said something at the beginning of this year about what it was like for you to bring this to life and how much sense it basically made. That it was you that got a chance to bring, Edgar Daniel Nixon or E.D. Nixon to life. You said it's in my work. My activism has always been my work. Do you think that's why these roles just seem tailor-made for you? Because they are so much in line with your purpose in life.
They are absolutely in line with my politics. They are absolutely in line with my love for all of history, particularly American history. I'm starting to remove myself from just separating African American history from America because it's just not true, Cyrus. We are very much a part of the American experience and the American history. And although that history hasn't been comfortable and it hasn't been pretty, I'm no shape or form disrespecting the Native Americans, but there's also, documentation that proves that there have been people of color in this region called North America long before the transatlantic slave trade. We just found out recently now that they're finally admitting that there were Britons 10,000 years ago that had dark skin, although blue eyes. Now, we've been knowing with Henry Clark and everybody else, and Ivan Van Sertima, that a lot of people walked out of Africa and found themselves in the cold region, and they begin to get these recessive genes. The melanin began to disappear. We all know that the cradle of humanity is Africa, so it's interesting that in my lifetime, I can see the truth really come out, and I've always been a proponent and very excited of being a part of wanting to get the right story or set the record straight, and to know that King stood and said that he was no coward. By the end of the meeting, he had accepted the MIA presidency, and Nixon became the treasurer. That was the thing that set off the keynote address at the full meeting of the Holt Street Baptist Church, and that is how it started, because it gave Nixon an opportunity to share all of his labor and civil rights contacts and go around the country as a Pullman porter, and they raised over $400,000 to continue that bus boycott for 381 days. And another unsung hero in that was Clifford Durr, the white attorney that was allowed to get Rosa Parks out, and then the attorney Fred Gray and Charles Langford. Right. Many people don't know that was very much a part of wanting to lose the case, and they did, and to appeal at the circuit court, and then take it all the way to the Supreme Court with that loss, and find out that it was unconstitutional to have those buses segregated.
Yeah. And I think the other side of this is, as you mentioned, these individuals, you again going back to Instagram, Isaiah, talked about just yesterday, posting about how glad you were that the world was going to get to know the hidden figures, as you say, behind the meteoric rise of Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., and the civil rights movement as we thought we knew it. Do you also find that that's kind of part of your responsibility as a storyteller through film and through the project like you've done, to be able to not only to entertain, but also to educate and to inspire by these roles?
That's been the reason I became an actor when I started in theater and education with the City Kids Repertory in 1988. I've always been more interested in educating through my art than becoming a huge movie star, or whatever that's supposed to mean. My wife always says that I'm a wonderful teacher. I've always been asked to teach. I do enjoy teaching when I do get the opportunities to speak, and who knows, I may find myself in my later years doing just that. But I'm an avid reader, and there are a lot. I think that the truth will set you free eventually. Right. And the more we know about the Claudette Colvins and the Oriel S. Brothers and the Susie McDonalds and the Mary Lou Smiths, and the Jeanette Reeses, not to deflect or take anything from Rosa Parks, she did what she wanted to do, but it wasn't because her feet were tired. She had already been a long-time activist fighting, segregation and racism and bigotry and lynching for a long time. She may have come off as meek and quiet and demure, but she was a fierce warrior long before she was made the face of this boycott, and she was very much aware of the pain of the other women. Unfortunately, just like I said before, they couldn't be the proper litigants because they had too many personal issues that could have been attacked by the press, and that movement would have been immediately stopped and not funded. But yeah, to be a part of the movie that is also bringing up the idea that how powerful. I mean, Edgar D. Nixon owned his own home. He never, even though his home had been bombed, he never left Montgomery. Even after Raymond Parks, who was also an activist and very much a part of the Scottsboro Boys case in 1931. A lot of people don't know about Raymond Parks. They just see him in the movie as just a barber. But that was the way he made a living. But before that, he was at the level of activism when it was most dangerous in Alabama in 1931, in the height of the lynching. So to be able to give voice and have Eric Avellino's vision and making this movie look so beautiful, and having Katrina Ogilvie's research to be able to take essentially 7 icons that are hidden figures and create, or maybe more than 7, 11 figures that deserve a biopic, and put it inside of a movie and make it entertaining. That's extraordinarily difficult. I commend her for it. Got my attention. I'm a proud executive producer on it, and I'm proud to have my name on it. So I hope everyone can see it this Sunday on TV One.
Exactly. At 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, we definitely want them to do that. I had a chance to speak with Sean Clay, Isaiah, who brings to life Martin Luther King in this film. He talked about what it was like for him to step into that role, and then, of course, to be able to work with individuals like you. I mean, talk to us about that, if you don't mind, about what it's been like for you to kind of be that example for individuals like Sean as to what is career if they are true to themselves along the way.
Well, he was terrified, man. He was absolutely terrified. And I respected his fear. I respected and respected that he was overwhelmed. I respected that he reached out to me for help. I respected that I helped him run lines for his speeches, and I respected that he took my advice. It's not to portray one of the most iconoclastic and the most recognizable human beings on the planet, but simply follow the blueprint, the thing that brought us all here, and that is the script. You are an actor first, not an impressionist, and you're certainly not Martin Luther King, okay? But you're a fine actor. So just let the words lead you. And because of Katrina's writing her cadence, even though we couldn't use the actual speeches by the King estate wouldn't let us do that because they don't know what we're going to do with their fathers and husband father's words, so they were very protective. But I think she did a fine job creating the essence of what transpired at that first keynote speech at Hope Street Baptist Church in 1955 to set off the boycott on December 5th of 1955. It's powerful, man, and he did his job as an actor. I can only say that he did his job, and he served the purpose for the ensemble of the film. It's not a biopic. They've already done that already, with Selma. So we didn't have that pressure. It was just merely another voice and a character. We told the story. As one person who lived it, who was when we screened it in Montgomery, she said it wasn't a history lesson for what she saw. She was there. And what she saw with our movie, we told the story. We got it right. We didn't add any bells and whistles. We didn't leave anyone out. We told the story as it happened. And for a person who actually lived it, still alive, and I'm sure she came with her scissors and her knives ready to cut the movie piece by piece. But that is not what happened. So to screen it in Montgomery, Alabama, and for those who know the story, even Brian Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative, their entire office came out and they saw it, and their history is perfected in Montgomery. They support the film, so we got it right. And again, when that goes back to the vision of Katrina Ogilvy and all of her great research and being fair and educating me. Because I tell you, I didn't know who Mary Louise Smith was or Susie McDonald, or I was loosely familiar with Oriella Browder only because of Browder Virtues Gale, but I didn't know her first and middle name. I didn't, and I loosely knew of Claudette Colvin, but I didn't know Charles Langford, and I didn't know Fred Gray, who would go on to litigate the Tuskegee syphilis case and get reparations for the victims left behind that their loved ones have been tested as syphilis. So, Fred Gray himself deserves a biopic and more attention on this. And I hope and pray that when people see this movie, they will go and Google all of these unsung heroes and these hidden figures and get an understanding that we were not lied to. Is what I would like for this film, two things, is that when we are in control of our narrative, the truth always prevails. When we have someone else that doesn't have our best interests at heart, they're always going to write it from their lens and their narrative. So what I enjoy about this movie is that we have taken the narrative back, and hopefully this will be an example of what it looks like, what it feels like when we are in control of our narrative. And we are standing on the right side of history because that history has already been told, already has happened, has been defined. It's just that we did not have control of the narrative to keep that story going, the truth going.
Sure. And that's the thing, all about bringing the truth. And that's the great thing I have to say about what TV One has been able to do with these films they've been presenting to us, is giving us some stories, as you said, Isaiah, that we would not know about. I had not heard about these accounts that you all are bringing to light before. I think that's going to be the great thing. Thanks to the way that you're using your platform online, you've been able to kind of help us with that education. Is that kind of that continual thing? I know you and I have talked, several times now, Isaiah, about Twitter, but now you've really expanded out into even Instagram, really using that platform, and of course still using your Facebook.
I brush my teeth with Instagram, man. I love Instagram more than I love Twitter because something about the pictures and the way I post. I'm an educator, I guess, at heart. And people find themselves following me because they're learning. I'm not just posting about me and, hey, here's my new car. I post about what I'm cooking, what I'm feeling, my impulses. I'm very impulsive. So I post my impulses. Sometimes I take them down if they're too impulsive. But for the most part, I'm trying to give them a pathway of how I think, what I think is important, and what I think is authentic, and what I think you should think is important about who you are, how maybe you should post. We got enough pollution out there in social media. So we need a little more, education, erudite, intellect, elegance, love, beauty. Let's get back to that, and that's what I feel. My audience is growing on Instagram. It's almost catching up. I've been on Instagram a short amount of time, and I have over 70, close to 80,000 followers on Instagram. I've been on Twitter since 2008, and only have 97,000, followers. So it looks like I'm stronger, and my voice is more appreciated and heard on Instagram than it is on Twitter, because Twitter just can't help itself for the most part. It's like if I post something negative or something that someone can take and spin into a negative, then I'll get 20,000, 2,000 retweets because it's negative and toxic. So I once thought that Twitter was be the tool to beat the drum, but seemed like the state of society that's on Twitter and the level of negativity that's on Twitter today, they're not interested in love and harmony and peace and education. They're only interested in outrage. So I've resorted back to my Facebook, where I thrive the most, and I'm discovering I'm having a pretty strong voice on Instagram now.
Right. We appreciate that voice, Isaiah. Looking forward to hearing it continue online, and definitely looking forward to this Sunday on TV One, again at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central for Behind the Movement. Make sure you guys are watching and look for the updates as well. Isaiah, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for the time, and looking forward to that next conversation with you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Cyrus. Until next time.
Okay? Thank you. You too. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late and missed part of the conversation with Isaiah, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media sites. So head over to Facebook.com/CyrusWebb or go to Twitter.com/CyrusWebb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. You all make it a great one.